Hi, Brent Coon here. Most of you know that I'm a lawyer, damn good one, by the way, but you don't know exactly what I do. And most of you think that what I do is out of town because we have offices around the country. We recently resolved a plane crash in Spain, for example. But we do a lot of work locally. And an example of one of the cases that we handled locally was the TPC explosion that occurred in Mid County several years ago. And I want to use that as an example today to explain to you what's happened in that case and why it's so important for us to take action. With TPC, we know that the refinery blew up because they had changed the inhibitor product and it resulted in a copolymerization or expansion or popcorning in the product that went into a dead leg on a pipe that caused it to rupture. So when these hydrocarbons exploded, the effect of it was that it blew up everything around it and blew off doors off houses in the neighborhood and caused a lot of other damage. It could have even been worse. Fortunately, there were some products out there that could have combusted that didn't as a result of water being poured on them for 24 hours until the rest of the fires were put out. But what we've learned from that are several things. One of which is that we know from history, from my work in many other refinery explosions all over the country, that these plants are not kept to specs like they should. We don't have OSHA going out double checking all of the process safety management procedures to make sure that there's no thin pipe, rusted out parts of the plant. Many of these plants were built 50 years ago and haven't been really updated for safety features that are out there now with new plants, including even flares on some of them. And what happened with TPC was highly avoidable in almost every case that we've been involved in and gone into the reasons, the root causes why something happened. These were always known, foreseeable occurrences. They were things that the engineers and other people talked about fixing, and they decided not to because of almost always budgetary considerations, shutting down a unit, not making product for sale, and also the costs associated to just upgrading the facility. And as a result of that, a lot of these things that need to be done just aren't done. So the net effect of that is if and when one of these plants blows up and maybe kills some of the workers, maybe harms or kills people that just live nearby, what happens? In these lawsuits, most of the time what happens is we get down to business, find out why it happened. We work with OSHA, the Chemical Safety Hazard Board, and other state and federal agencies in the investigations. We bring in experts that know this industry inside out, and we go digging around. We go through all of the old emails and all the old engineering specs and all the product lines, and we find out and talk to everybody there. We depose their budgetary people. We go back and find out why these things were not fixed and what the plant knew about the likelihood of it happening. And in TPC, unfortunately, what we know is that it was an old plant, that all these problems were known to exist at the plant, and that the plant did not take any remedial measures to make sure this didn't happen, even though they were forewarned about the possibility. And in fact, the same kind of popcorning that caused this rupture and explosion had been occurring in other portions of the plant before this massive explosion. So in the litigation, here's the real tragedy of this case is not only did they cause an incident that could have been avoided and should have been avoided in the first place, is that afterwards, and after the 30,000 people were evacuated from town during the middle of the holidays and then brought back and displaced, what happened was that they had $800 million in insurance coverage for their business interruption if something happened and they can't sell their product for a while, and in product replacement. They have to rebuild the facility. So what happened here is several years later, they did not rebuild the plant. And you know why? Because we found out that they were taking all of their insurance money, and instead of rebuilding and reemploying the people that work there, instead of rebuilding the community, and instead of fixing all the houses they damaged, what they did is they took all that money and they secretly went back and gave all that money to their investors, the people that financed the entity. And then they filed bankruptcy, leaving thousands and thousands of people who had been physically harmed or whose property had been seriously damaged, leaving them holding the bag. We've taken them through the bankruptcy courts in Delaware, and we've been able to negotiate some small amount of repayment out of that. But the basic rule with these kinds of bankruptcies is that they are made to protect these kinds of industries. They're not made to protect the people that live around these plants. And that's a shame, and we're doing something about it. Our firm's a public policy firm, not just a litigation firm. So when we find out something this egregious has happened, we take matters into our own hands. We go to legislators, we write bills. I've testified at the State House. I've testified in Congress several times with clients, bringing them out to testify in front of committees about the needed change in our industries to make them safer and to make sure that our consumers here are treated fair under the law. And that's another thing that we do. We do it on our own dime. It's at my cost. We do it because we want to give back to the community, and we also want to make sure we're doing what we can to reduce the likelihood of something like this happening again to you.
Brent Kuhn and Associates is a nationally recognized law firm and the epitome of the 21st century law practice. The firm has built its reputation on the satisfaction of its clients and the respect of both colleagues and opponents. Our mission is to help ensure that individuals' rights are protected and their well-being respected. For more information about Brent Kuhn and Associates and current litigation, please visit bkuhnlaw.com.